11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans. Another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific for about an hour or 90 minutes. We run it live on YouTube and simulcast it over at gunchannels.com. We, when it's all over, I guess we will take the audio from it and we'll post that as a podcast on iTunes. So we're interested in anybody who might be listening to the show now or in the future to leave us some feedback, like the channels on whatever platform you're listening on. That lets us know where the listeners are, and it also helps get the show recommended to more people. So we do recommend, or we do appreciate that favor. Let's see, we have hosts, and 3 of us are here today. We got Dano jumping in from Illinois. Thanks for joining.
Yep, glad to be here.
Got Z jumping in from the island of Maui.
Yo, 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 what do you know?
And I'm down here in Arizona. So today is Friday, and it's episode 240. We've been doing the show for a while. We'll have to do the math there and see how many months that is. But on Fridays, we have alternative gun topic. We'll be talking about appraising your guns, or our guns. Then we'll get into the gun business and talk about specifically FFLs. We do that occasionally. And then on Fridays, we like to wrap up the week and talk about whatever gun deals might be posted over on gun channels. We also do our daily stuff, our gun shop of the day, our gun of the day, and all the other stuff that we like to hit on the daily. But before we get into our scheduled stuff, we always like to take a break at the beginning of the show, see if anything happened overnight. I know quite a bit of stuff that happened in yesterday on the 2nd, and any news that might be worth talking about.
The AK chat was this morning.
Yeah, I actually was supposed to do the AK chat last night, and then somehow went in to see the dogs being bad. I could tell by the silence that the dog was doing something bad in the bedroom, so that's never a good thing. So I went in there to check on him, somehow fell asleep. So that happens occasionally, and I woke up, and it was way too late to do a chat, so hung out with Dano in the middle of the night, chatting on gun channels, and then I guess we did some work towards the show, technically. And then got up this morning and did the AK podcast a little bit late, and it was weird to do it in the middle of the day, but I think we had a pretty decent show. So
oh yeah, no, I actually got a chance to listen to it before this show when I just got home, and definitely, would you like a text in the future, or if you're sleeping, let you sleep?
No, feel free. I mean, it doesn't cost nothing to text me, and if I'm asleep, I'm not going to hear it. But if I'm dozing off or something, it might keep me going, because that was really the idea. I'm trying not to get, what do you call it, artificially going with the caffeine all the time, and I guess that's what happens. So did the show this morning, and it was, like I say, a little bit weird not having any co-host for a while, and then Night Strike jumped in for a bit. But do want to keep the shows going on a regular basis, and I really do appreciate the way that we're able to do this show and the AK podcasts, since they're supported by the listeners, really, through Patreon. We're able to take the shows in directions that you're just not able to, for a couple of reasons. One, if we were sponsored by somebody, I'd have to at least acknowledge that once in a while, and then whenever it came time to talk about their products, I'd have to act like I like them, or like them, I guess. And then the other thing is the topics that we go after. When I have to build a product, a piece of online content for the whole world, that can be kind of bland because it has to appeal to a lot of people. But when it only has to appeal to the people that are supporting us on Patreon, we could be way more specific and nerd out on stuff. So it's definitely a lot more fun to build content this way. And I really do appreciate the people that are allowing us to do it this way. So definitely interested in keeping the thing going on a weekly. So again, thanks for everybody's patience moving that over. But like I said, it was kind of neat experience to do it in the middle of the day. I don't think I'll do it often like that, but it's nice to know occasionally it can be done. And then you'll have to give us some feedback on what people think about having a, I don't know what you call that, a primetime show, but basically a structured show like that on in the middle of the day. It's a little weird not having the normal amount of feedback we would get from the audience. I guess it's worth experimenting with potentially.
All right. I got a couple of things kind of last night, sort of a thing. One is that late yesterday came across that both in the House and the Senate, they have two different slightly variations of resolutions on the Social Security Administration rule change. And they're going to close that hole that is already set to take effect next December, which is where they are allowed to violate your health privacy and do a gun grab via the Social Security Administration. And both the House and the Senate passed joint resolutions closing that hole. Now, there is one final step that needs to take place, but clearly it's in that direction, and it's just a matter of a couple of technicalities that there's no doubt that will happen. The other thing I want to put out there is a call to action, and I put it on the main, this information on the main channel, the main page of Gun Channels, as well as I just pasted it out to YouTube, as well as Gun Channels in the text chat, and that's New Mexico. They're having an issue about universal background checks. And to please call in opposition to House Bill 50 and Senate Bill 48. I have the phone number out there. It's area code 505-476-2200, and ask to veto HB 50 and SB 48. This needs our attention ASAP. They are going to talk about this and possibly pass it, or let it fail, hopefully, tomorrow. So you have to call today to get your input in there.
Well, it's a good thing we mentioned it on the show yesterday, too.
Yep. So if for some reason you didn't catch the link either on YouTube or Gun Channels, check out the main page on Gun Channels, and you'll see I posted it there as well. And that's all I have as far as things from last night, today, so to speak.
Right on. I want to also mention Every Second Matters was yesterday. So on the 2nd of the month, a bunch of us get together and try to do Second Amendment awareness. And sometimes that's in the form of getting together and just talking about what we may have done, whatever individual or group efforts we accomplished either that month or that day. Sometimes it's going more or less ambitiously towards creating online resources or gathering online resources. And I think last night we did a pretty decent job of moving the bar a little bit. So I'm going to screen share here. So anybody that might be listening to this in the future, it might be worth checking out the video just to see what we're talking about here. But everysecondmatters.com is the website now for the campaign, right? Every Second Matters is basically just an awareness campaign. We didn't really want to go for any kind of structure or organized thing or any kind of dues or membership or anything like that. We didn't want to add to the already overwhelming amount of information that's out there for gun advocates or gun owners' rights groups and stuff. So when we started the thing a long time ago, it was really just an effort to get together and have a conversation periodically and consistently on the 2nd of every month. Then somewhere in the beginning of 2015, the end of 2014, Sean from Florida Carry encouraged me to take it to the next level. So spent some time setting up the everysecondmatters.com website with some social networking software, and we created a list of organizations, and then tried to create a place that could facilitate the posting of the events and the various news from those organizations. And it's been about a year now that we've had it in this latest incarnation. So last night we went in and added another section of the website. We're calling it the wiki. So off the main site, if you go up to the top right, you can see the 2A wiki here at the top. And you click on that. It's basically just a listing of some various campaigns or initiatives or laws or whatever you want to say. So we have the Second Amendment one as a catch-all at the top here. And I added 2A and health here this morning because somebody had posted something about some rule changes that have already happened. And so we are seeing some positive Second Amendment stuff. And this is an attempt at creating a structure that can help archive that, so that when people are concerned or interested about what's going on, this can be another resource to have information. So we've got the federal laws. So we have it starting with the National Firearms Act and all of them listed out here up until the assault weapons ban. We'll go ahead and add the couple that might be missing here. But this way, again, if someone has information or something relevant about one of these federal firearms laws, we can post it here accordingly. But I think the most important thing we've got going for us right now are the various bills that are in committees and are active right now. So in this section called Federal 2A Bills and then Live, we have all of them, pretty much all of them, and we can add more, of course. But we've got the Second Amendment Defense Act. We've got HR 2710, which is the lawful purpose. That's changing sporting use. Then we have the Hearing Protection Act and a couple of the others that people might not even be familiar with. So again, a place where we can list them. If you go into this one, for example, for the Hearing Protection Act, Smeggy has posted some information on tracking it through the Senate and through the House. There's some definitions here as well. If someone were to post a video, I think Eric from Iraqi Veteran posted a video on one of these topics, somebody could go in here and post that video. So then again, if someone's having a conversation about one of these initiatives or one of these bills, or you're maybe scheduling some kind of content that you're creating, a podcast or a video or something, this give you a place to look for whatever relevant data there might be and whatever current information there might be. Going down a little bit further, we see that I put a place in here for the petitions. So right now there's the 2 repeal petitions that are out there, and of course we have links to them there. And again, as people post videos or add new information about those petitions, it can all be accumulated here. I've got a place for the 2A bills once they've already become either passed or not passed, a place where we can archive them, and it is sometimes relevant to talk about the failures that we've had and successes, I guess. And then the other main initiative, I think, for this section of the website would be the court decision. So starting in 1939 with the U.S. versus Miller, a pretty consequential one that kind of reiterated the 1934 National Firearms Act. There really wasn't any other court decisions until recently with Heller. So we have Heller in here. We have the McDonald, which is also fairly recent. And then, of course, the Peruta, which is just last year. So a place we can store information. I know HBS has a lot of information about the Peruta case, and it's sometimes frustrating on where to accumulate that kind of information. And now this is an effort towards putting some structure up there so that we can all use this 2 ways. One, to post information when we come across it in a way that's useful for everybody, and then of course a way that we can all reference that information at whatever time we might need. So thanks to everybody who participates in the Every Second Matters campaign. This is another step towards making it a more useful thing that we can use to, let's say if we're all walking in the same direction, we can use this as a way to tether ourselves to the second and move it along with us in the next 600 days.
Yeah, and I just put the links to those just to make it a little easier for the people both on YouTube as well as gun channels. So.
Right on. So again, that was obviously a little bit more Every Second Matters related than this stuff, but I'm going to assume that most of the people that are watching this are going to be interested in what we're doing over there as well. And of course, everyone's welcome to check it out. If you're listening to this as a podcast or just checking this out for first time, it's everysecondmatters.com with the second like 2ND, that kind of nomenclature. But if you look for it online, you'll have no problem finding the Second Amendment Awareness campaign.
And just a reminder, I know G-Web's mentioned it in the startup of the show, but this will be potentially the last show at this time. Is next week we are starting the new hours. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, there's no point in talking about the old hours anymore. We're now of 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific shift.
Yeah.
We're at least going to try it out, right?
I can't see going back. I mean, unless it completely works out horribly for everybody. As far as going forward, I'm not going to be able to dedicate a chunk of the middle of the day. If I have to go get a 9 to 5 someplace, or if I'm on the road, it's just not going to be practical to stop in the middle of the day all the time. So making it in the evening, or potentially moving it to the morning, but moving it to one of the extremes of the working day is forward, really.
Yeah, and I think we've seen at least with the tools and the things that we have, how fertile the soil can be for us at this time, and we're looking to make a bigger, better show.
That's true. Yeah, and we've tried to do it here kind of intentionally as an experiment to see what would happen in the middle of the day. It wasn't like market research showed us that this is the time people wanted the show. So it'll be annoying for some people I know that listen to it during the day, and we are going to try to do something to not leave a void. So we've got Jamie James doing the early watch. I was talking to Night Strike earlier today, and we'll figure out something to keep a daytime show going. And I'm thinking it'll probably be more of a collaborative effort with a bunch of people acting as hosts when they can, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we always welcome anybody else that wants to start a show at this time as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You want to commit to, whether it's a topic show or whether you want to be the early midday lobby guy, the go-to guy, more than welcome, or a combination of the two.
I would say, even if you don't want to commit, if you just want to have a show every once in a while, that's awesome as well. We appreciate all effort.
Even if you are committed, that might even make it easier for your schedule. So I think I did the math right. If this is show 240 and you divide 240 by 5, that gives you how many weeks, right? What did I do?
Yeah.
Oops, I closed my calculator. Anyway, I think we just did a year. I think this is a year right now.
I thought you guys started the end of February, beginning of March.
And I honestly don't remember anymore. So somebody will have to do the math. Maybe I'm screwing up because of some kind of leap year or something, leap week. But yeah, we're episode 240, so figure out where that's at. Anyway, so that was last night. We didn't have a Yankee. Tech Daddy show was on last night as well. And what am I thinking? There was another show last night.
Just like gun channels yesterday?
Well, no, I'm just trying to remember everything because it seemed like there was a lot of stuff happened since our last show. So I guess I'm maybe thinking every second matters. And then they had lobbies and stuff all in between. So a lot of stuff happening overnight. If you like this show and you're listening to it for the first time, if that's the case, then check out Gun Channels for sure.
Technically, that'd be about 48 weeks. Technically.
48. Okay. So we're a couple shy still. Okay. So thanks for doing that. So we will dig into the actual show topics today then. So we're going to start out with our alternative gun topic for the week, insurance appraisal. So we've talked about this a bit before, but have you guys ever thought about taking your guns in, or have you ever had like a family gun or something that you take in periodically for an appraisal, both to keep it up to date for insurance, but also just so you have an idea of where it's at in the market still, what its value is?
What I have done is I called my insurance broker and asked him about my housing insurance and what is covered, what is extra, what do I need proof of? Because I thought, well, do I need the serial numbers of the firearms, that sort of thing, in order to claim them on an insurance claim? And at least with my particular carrier, is if it doesn't go over X amount for the type of policy that I have, they will simply take, okay, if you said you had, a couch, a love seat, a TV, a computer, and 5 guns, and it doesn't go over X amount, you're covered. Now, if it's going to go over X, then you have to get it itemized. And mine is just under at this point, but another couple of guns, and that'll definitely change the teeter-totter mathematics of it. And I'll have to go get it. I forget the technical word for it. It's one of those insurance words. Have that added to my policy as a individual line item.
A rider?
Possibly. I think it was rider. But like, I only have, basically, just hair over a handful of guns. 6 guns. I don't have a house full of guns, which would be a very different story.
Well, since we're talking kind of basics here, potentially, that's something to be aware of, that 6 guns can add up pretty darn quick. And you inherit a couple of guns, especially older stuff, and you'd be surprised an old little 22 can be quite valuable. So, 6 guns can easily be close to $1,000 a piece, right? So, right. Real quick, you can get to most insurance I've been experienced with. You have like a $10,000 limit for any specific items. So usually we got to insure our computers for more and our guns for more, as riders or whatever that's called, where you take additional coverage out. So also keep in mind your holsters and your ammo and your other accessories and stuff. If they count all that towards that portion of your insurance, your home insurance, then you may need a bit to cover preps.
Exactly. And it's all about, because a lot of times we think, well, I don't have that many guns, but you may have other things of substantial value. And it's really the sum of the total. Like you're talking about, does it pierce that magic number? And depending on your insurance company and the type of policy you have with them, it may be 10,000, it may be 5,000, it maybe could be 2,000. Just depends on the type of policy and who you have it with.
And I have a tendency to remember what I paid for stuff, not being aware of what it's worth now. And that can blow your mind sometimes, especially if you've had stuff for a while and you're an old guy.
Right, and that's an example of where, like, computers will typically, it's not an asset. It's not growing in its value. It's depreciating. Where with a firearm, typically it's either holding its own or possibly appreciating.
Maybe the hardware, but it depends on what you do with those machines. Ideally, you use your machines, and they are worth a lot more than the.
So what's the deal with the NRA insurance?
That's a good question. I think you need, number one, to initiate it. A lot of people assume that it just happens, so you need to fill out the forms and whatnot and apply for it. And then I think it gives you 10 grand. Or am I wrong? I forget.
Just like a blank, up to that much, just as a blank to cover whatever. Like, so it's not like you're not getting an appraisal on your stuff, really. You'd have to get an appraisal on your stuff through an adjuster or something to know in your head what to turn in, correct?
Well, that's what we're supposed to be talking about, so let's get into that. But I know that I haven't done research on it in a while. It's something I do plan to do some more research in again, along with CCW insurance. But I know that I have heard people complain about the NRA insurance, that it isn't what they expected or enough, depending on their collection or whatever. So
I have heard that too, that it does have shortcomings and it doesn't necessarily cover everything that the person expects it to cover, so to speak. Because I've heard Yankee mention that before. I mean, to me, it's a nice supplemental like insurance, but it's definitely not comprehensive.
Yeah, I actually got mine going with the NRA last year, and it was, if I remember correctly, the limits, you may be able to buy different limits, but I think I either was offered or had the $5,000 one, and I was not required to submit, an inventory or serial numbers, but that was a benefit of my membership. But yes, it's being a member makes you eligible to get that insurance, but you still have to go and apply for it. If that makes any sense.
So talking about appraisal though, so I guess a couple ways you can do that, and it's something that people may not have ever thought about, so maybe we're providing a service for them, but you can take your collection in or have photographs and take in to a shop and have them do an appraisal. Might be interesting just to do once in a while if you haven't done it, especially if you've acquired a bunch of guns over the years or you've inherited stuff. So in other words, you have stuff that you didn't technically research yourself or do the purchase research on. So the same way you would for I guess for end of life type of things and wills and that kind of thing, or passing stuff on along as inheritance. You can do all that stuff kind of preemptively or just for your own interest, and they're going to charge you something for it, but that way it's discreet and it's pretty sure it's accurate. And if you really want to be sure, it's the kind of thing you could do periodically, like every 5 years or something, take it to a different place and then take the combination of all those appraisals, and you have a pretty good idea of what your inventory's worth.
Yeah, I just did a real quick search, and I'm looking. There's a number of places that offer online gun appraisals, as well as there's something that's, I don't know how long it's been around, but I've heard of it before. It's called the Blue Book of Gun Values, where you can look up your particular firearm, the particulars, and it will give you the used value depending on condition of that firearm. Now, collectibles is a whole nother world, where you're not just, getting, that Glock 17 and what is its used value. Collectibles is something where you need to go to a professional who's going to hand you back a document that certifies with their credentials listed to what they feel it is worth at the time that they did the appraisal, which is brings up another issue of If you had an appraisal, but it was 5-10 years ago, do not assume that the number that it says in there is true today. It may be more, it may be less.
It might be quite a bit one way or the other too.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good point, and that's where I was going to say I'm thinking 5 years is probably about right. I guess depending on your circumstances, that might change, but something like that, and that's probably worth the expense and the hassle once in a while to. And then again, it's also enough time to, depending on what, I know people with lots and lots of guns. So depending on the size, how fast your collection grows or how extensive it becomes, that might be a good time frame to stop and organize it all and get it all documented.
Something that just popped into my head is and I probably need to ask my insurance agent about it, is if you have a gun safe, and not everyone does, I do, but not everyone does, can you get a discount off your homeowner's insurance for having that? Because typically, like as an example, if you get an alarm on your home, it will give you a discount on your insurance for that. That's just an example.
That's a good point. They might give you a discount if all you own is 9mm because they're so unappealing, thieves won't even take them.
Well, they give you a discount because, that's what most people love.
All right, I got to be right back because I'm playing games with the mailman. I'm pretty sure he's sitting in front of my house there.
Nope, no problem. We can take this over for a few minutes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity. I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters out there. It is greatly appreciated. And if you are interested in becoming a supporter of the show, just simply go over to Patreon. Just type in Daily Gun Show, and there's only one over on Patreon, and that's us, and help support this show. And you can put in how much per show you want to donate, as well as you can cap it. So let's say, as an example, you want to put in $1, but you want to cap it at $1 per month, which is certainly absolutely appreciated. You simply put in $1 per show, and you limit it to one maximum of $1 per month, and you're set. And that's a very easy way to set that up. So once again, thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. Now,
yep, and one of the things that we do is have a couple of different levels over there, and like that I was saying, and at the $3 level, once a month we're going to send out a patch randomly to one of those supporters, and I think we're going to do that during the show today. And this will be the patch panel. So we've got a couple of logos from the show there, a couple of people from the gun channels, their icons and logos and whatnot. Got some Every Second Matters stuff, and then crazy stuff like the Zombie Bob and the Radioactive Flippy. And we'll be grabbing one of the random Patreon supporters live during the show, and then doing that as like a special bonus perk or whatever.
All right. So where are we at on insurance appraisal? Also, that one other thing I'll throw out there is Granddaddy's 1911. There's no one that's going to insure it for what it means to you. So you have to be realistic about that intrinsic value. That it may have great personal value to you and be worth more money than there is, but no one's going to insure it for that. They're going to insure it for what it's worth on the open market today in its current condition.
Right on. So I think we're going to wrap up that segment of the show, because unless you guys have something else to talk about the idea isn't to necessarily give people an authoritarian perspective on it as much as just get the conversation going. So feel free to take that conversation off to the various live chats and things over on gun channels, or your podcasts or your YouTube videos or your discussions over on Facebook or whatever. So like we mentioned, we've got one of the levels over there on Patreon. You're in the running for a random patch of the month, and we're going to do that today. And I'm going to grab the random website over here. And we only have 2 people that are eligible today, so we're going to run the random thingy there, and it's number 2. And I guess I didn't think of this right, because now I'm going to have to stop screen sharing for a second while I jump over and look at their names again. So that means Josh F is the winner, and if he is watching right now. I will start screen sharing again, and this is the patch panel that you'll be able to pick from, and let us know what you want from there. And since I got this open and Z is in here, we do the same thing over on the Gun Website's YouTube channel or Patreon channel, and Z is one of the supporters over there. So thank you very much, and he is also the winner of this month's Patch of the Month. So I don't know if he's still here, but
we got a question kind of going around over there, and specifically about the Daily Gun Show.
Okay.
My understanding, and I thought this is the way that you had explained it to me, was it's per podcast, not necessarily per episode, correct? So there's going to be about 4 to 5 podcasts a month. Is that correct?
So here's how it works on Patreon. You can do it episodic, or you can do it monthly. And we chose to do it monthly on the Gun Website's one. To make it super confusing, we did episodic on the AK one and on the Daily Gun Show. So we do the Daily Gun Show every single weekday. That would be very expensive if per people were to go as low as $1. So to make it less frustrating, hopefully, but potentially more confusing, every Friday we're going to do a paid podcast on the Daily Gun Show. So today, being Friday, will be a paid podcast, and everybody who's contributing $1 or more per podcast will be charged. So every Friday, expect a charge from the Daily Gun Show through Patreon. But like Dano said, we encourage everyone to keep in mind that you can put a cap over there. So we might charge you 4 times a month, but if you put a cap on there of $1, you'll only actually ever be charged that first $1, and then the other 3 you'll sit out. And you're more than welcome to do something like that. We consider that a quarter per show. And our goal isn't to have any one person support us, but simply to cover the bills and pay the lights bill or whatever, the server bills and whatnot, with a small contribution from a bunch of people who appreciate the show. And like we talked about earlier, that allows us to do the show for you. And we'll see how it grows. But that's really our goal, is to create the show for our viewers. And one of the ways we say thanks to that is posting those patches like that. So anybody that contributes at the $3 level is basically giving us $12 a month for the efforts of the show, and then you're eligible for one of those random patches. And right now we have 2 people, so to make it fair, we only give out 1, but as soon as we get to like 5 or 10, we'll probably give out more than 1 patch, because our goal isn't to be stingy on the patches, it's to encourage everybody to have fun with it. So I guess we should also mention, we do have another level if you want to ensure that you get a patch every month at the $5 level. So keep in mind that's times 4, so basically $20 a month. You'll get a patch every single month. And our goal there is to use our Patreons here on the Gear Websites one, the Gun Websites one, so that we start doing a PVC patch every month. And we're really, really close to that between our people that are distributing our patches at their shops, and then the people that are participating in the monthly patch of the month. We're pretty soon going to be at a point where we're able to do a new PVC patch every single month. And the people that are on Patreon will be like in line to get those right from the beginning.
Nice.
So hopefully
I know a lot of people out there are very appreciative of you going through that one more time for us, G. I definitely see some thanks out on the Gun Channel side for sure.
So once again, who was our Patreon winner for today?
It was Josh.
And where should he go to claim his prize?
I'll send him an email on Patreon. If he's watching right now, feel free to jump in there, but I'm not sure between everybody's usernames on YouTube and gun channels and then what they type into Patreon, it's always confusing. So we'll contact you through Patreon and then send that out to you post haste.
We'll let you know if you're a winner.
Gotcha. Well, it works different with the other things we do, and that's what I want to make sure people understand.
Yeah, it's not like the daily, one of the daily ones. So you want to just jump into that since we're kind of between segments? Well, I guess since we're about to jump into our gun biz segment, we'll go ahead and transition into that segment of the show. So as we do that, we'd like to take a break between that first and second segment to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a community we built a while back. It's completely run by the members. With that in mind, we like to feature a member every day. There wasn't really a theme to this week, but we're going back and looking at some of the contributing members. So today it's Deadhorse, and I'm not sure, is there a number after his name? It's Deadhorse Dad now, I guess. But we all just call him Deadhorse.
Deadhorse 69.
Is it? Thanks. So been around gun channels for a long, long time now. It's been active in both the text chats pretty much throughout the day, and then in the jumping into the live chats in the evening, jumping into a lot of the prime time chats as well as a guest. Always brings a lot of good insight. Obviously, he's got a unique experience with the amount of ARs he's built and the amount of parts and accessories and brands and models and different combinations. He's got a unique skill set of AR experience, and I'm always a fan because he allows us to build guns with him live quite often now. We've done it for quite a few times, so we have 4-hour plus live builds with him, and everybody always enjoys that. So it's the reason we built gun channels, to let people who have that creative interest. And Deadhorse is a good example of somebody who brings a lot to the table, but he's not trying to do it all. He's not trying to create a giant YouTube channel, and he's not into the cameras and the editing and all that. So he's willing to bring his knowledge and share his things that he does there, his projects, but very collaborative in his approach, and he's allowed me to do it. To have him in our podcasts. He's been on Heavy's chat doing the same thing. And again, it brings his knowledge and expertise to other people's chats. So really one of the reasons we built gun channels is to create a place for that kind of stuff to happen. And Deadhorse is definitely an example of somebody who's taking advantage of it and being an excellent example of it.
Yep. And I also want to thank him for he's helped me out with submitting about a handful of questions for the Tactical Pop Quiz, of course, with references to the answers as well. And I'm going to go ahead and make another plea for any of those out in the audience to please submit questions, answers, and their sources to dailygunshow@gmail.com to help the pop quiz keep going forward with new and interesting questions.
Yeah, Daniel's not begging. He doesn't remember, but I told him he could have like at least 4 batches a month in order to bribe people for that. So if you want to contribute some questions with answers that are footnoted so that Daniel doesn't have to do a bunch of research trying to verify the answers, that people give him shit about it. But if you're able to give Daniel some help with that, we will send you out something to say thank you for that.
Yep. It's very much appreciated.
All right, so with that, we will dig into that gun biz segment of the show. We're going to talk about FFLs again. We've done this before in the past. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again, though. So where do we go with FFLs today? Do we want to talk about specifically which ones there are, or do we want to talk about what it's like?
Let's talk about how it changed, and then how it changed again under just Obama potentially recently, and then how he wanted everybody to become an FFL if they sold more than, what was it, 6 guns a year, 2 guns a year, whatever it was.
Right on. That's a cool way to look at it. So I think of the FFLs, I like to look bird's eye view and look at the country in a timeline, starting with the 1776 or whatever it was, where we have the Second Amendment, and then the ratification of the Bill of Rights, I guess, is when we had the Second Amendment. That was our first and only federal firearms law, and it basically said, we're not going to mess with you. We're going to leave you alone. Specifically, we're making a point to say we're going to leave you alone. So for some 170 something years, we had no need for or no inclination to create any other kind of federal burden or infringement on the right to own arms. So then in 34, they decided we needed to change all that, and they created the 1934 NFA. And part of that was really going to remove handguns from, it was going to put handguns on the registry. So handguns would have gone the way of short rifles and machine guns and everything. That barely squeaked out, and we kept handguns and rifles. But basically that established this definition of a certain amount of firearms that had to be regulated and therefore defined and blah, blah, blah. A couple of years later, we get the Federal Firearms Act of 1938. And I think that is the act that's actually responsible for FFL. So again, to look at it in the bird's eye view, we had perfectly happy country. Everybody was doing fine for 170 something years. We decided we needed federal firearms laws. Pretty quick after that, we decided we needed somehow to regulate who could sell firearms. So from like 38 or something like that, we've had FFLs. So for 30 something years, everything was fine until 68. Somebody got assassinated or people got scared, and they decided, uh-oh, there's problems. We have to now make the 4473. And since we have FFLs, let's make them responsible for the 4473. So now FFLs from like 1968 onwards are now bookkeepers and like required to deal with this like bureaucratic mess that's like their licenses are dependent on. So then I think the next
counters.
Yep. And but required, not just like if you want, here's another aspect of your job, but like if you don't do it, you're going to jail. And then
federal prison, not just jail, even federal prison.
Potentially. So then we have something that we all forget about. In 1968, they started to make it a requirement that they had to keep track of your name and stuff when they bought ammunition. So from 68 to 86, gun shops had to deal with all that. So now they had 4473s and they're keeping track of everybody's addresses when they're buying ammo. That became enough of an infringement that people got sick of it, and we had the Firearms Owners Protection Act in 1986, which had some good things. And one of the good things was the lack of the cessation of that requirement for ammo. But it also gave us a Hughes Amendment, so everybody hates it. But anyway, that was an effect to FFLs. Then, of course,
did it also solid up the 86? Did that also solidify the free travel?
Yeah, that really didn't affect FFLs too much, except maybe that now people could travel a little bit more freely. So potentially FFLs got some more business if people were starting to travel with firearms. But I think then we probably see the Brady Bill or whatever, the Brady Act of 94-ish, being the next substantial thing to FFLs, and that created the burden of doing paperwork for the waiting period at created a burden at the local level. And luckily one of the sheriffs here in Arizona said F you to the federal government for infringing that burden on that level of law enforcement. So they got rid of the Brady Act, which was the initial waiting period, and along with that what was it, whatever the version was before NICS, the background check, basically all that was removed, but it was replaced with immediately the NICS background check. So that was probably the next big thing for FFLs, is the NICS background check burden. We talked a little bit before on the show about what we did over at Every Second Matters, and one of the things they still need to add there is the next infringement on FFLs, and that's the border states. Whenever you buy two centerfire guns, two centerfire rifles, there's an extra form that they have to fill out when you're on an international border with Mexico. So Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California have that additional burden, which is ridiculous when you think of a state like any of them. Texas or California, the north side of California and north side of Texas have about as much to do with the international border of Mexico as like Oklahoma and whatever, Kansas and stupid states up there. So it's kind of stupid, but I would say that's another infringement. But like you said, now they have situations where you're not allowed to get an FFL, and at least historically since 638, I guess, since they started them, you can't just get an FFL in order to be able to buy things wholesale, or you can't get an FFL so that you can acquire your collection.
Or personal collection, yep.
Yeah. So they've made it like you have to have a business address, you have to have all these business hurdles to get an FFL, until Obama, who wanted to dick with everybody by making laws as obscure and poorly written as possible and offer all kinds of consequences for vagarity or whatever that is. So he made it where he threatened to take people who had sold as few as one or two guns, take them and prosecute them as if they were illegally arms running. Yep. And then at the same time, not allow people who wanted to sell just a few guns become an FFL, because there's going to be some burden that you have to do so much business before you can be licensed. So yeah, he definitely wanted to get us coming and going with that. But I'm not sure where the status is at the moment of those being rescinded by Trump now, which they hope they
well,
better.
And technically Obama didn't really get to do that, correct? It was not able to move forward. It was not further defined. Am I correct or am I mistaken?
I think you're mistaken. I just think that they never actually did anything with it, but I'm pretty sure the directive is still sitting there. Now, I don't know if it's still mandatory that anybody listens to that dumbass directive, but I'm not aware of it not being directed. I mean, just because it's stupid doesn't mean he can't do it. And I'm pretty sure he did it.
That's okay. Okay, so that's something I'm going to try and keep mindful of, and when there's a chance to bring it up.
Well, that's
bring it forward.
now that we're talking about it, when we went through that list of stuff over on Every Second Matters that we created yesterday, with all the like judicial decisions, with all the federal laws, with all the things that are currently in the House, we could probably add one to that executive actions, because he did do so freaking many of them. And if nothing else, it archives them as they get removed by Trump, but it'll give people an ability to understand, know the status, if it's still currently affecting us,
right,
or rescinded. Because we need a scorecard for that, right?
We really do, because we need to know what's in play and what's not, for sure. I agree 100%.
Do we know the date effective of when home FFLs are no longer?
No. What are you talking about there?
I don't think that happened.
Where it had to have a brick and mortar front?
No, I don't know of that being a thing. Where did this become a thing?
Okay, I thought it was an impending thing. Maybe not.
They were trying to push. I don't think they had that happen, but that was one of the things that they were talking when he was saying about the kitchen counter FFL guy. Basically, they wanted like liability insurance and all these things to try and push those people into a brick and mortar type of place.
A potential rule change, not an actual law.
Right. And I don't know that they were able to do that, but I definitely know that that was one thing that had been breathed on or something like that. But as far as I know, you can still, I don't know if it's easy as 1, 2, 3, like they were doing the ads for a while there, but I know he was trying to change that.
Well, that's great if that's the case. I'm very happy about that.
And that'll be something else I'll definitely try and look into as well.
I've got an idea here. I don't know if you guys are going to be okay with it or not. I don't know what kind of time we've got today, but if we're doing okay with time, I'd like to put this out there. Someone on the YouTube side, I forgot who, because I just saw that and I jumped on it, asked about if Hughes is still alive. And I did make this video. I guess I can minimize. I made this video in 2013, so it might not be 100% accurate, but
let's take another look at you.
If that works, I'm going to run this and give some people some background on this Hughes guy.
Sure.
A little bit of a topic.
Yep, sounds great.
Firearms laws, this time from the perspective of a lawmaker, William J. Hughes. Now, you may or may not be familiar with his name, but you're probably familiar with the legislation he's responsible for. Of course, this is all done for educational purposes. We always encourage you to do your own research. Hughes was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives for New Jersey's 2nd District. He was born in 1932, graduated high school in 1950. By 1959, he had passed the bar, and from 1960 to 70, he was a first assistant prosecutor for a county in New Jersey. Then in 1975, he began a 20-year run on the U.S. House of Representatives, again for the state of New Jersey, as a Democrat. From 1981 through 1990, he chaired the subcommittee on crime, and that's what we'll be focusing on. He then became the ambassador to Panama and received lots of honorary degrees. He's definitely got a lot of political capital. He's been a politician his whole life. And the reason we show his biography here is to give you an idea of his experiences and his frame of reference. He's basically been a student, then a prosecuting attorney, then a representative. He's definitely been responsible for a lot of firearms legislation. Let's take a look at that 9-year stint from 1981 through 1990 when he was the chair of the subcommittee. First, the subcommittee has jurisdiction over all federal firearms laws, as well as the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which of course is there to enforce those laws. So as the chair of that subcommittee, he was responsible for 5 major acts of firearms legislation. Now on the surface, they all look like they're done with good intention, but let's take a closer look at those. We'll do these actually in other videos, but let's take a quick look at each of them now. First, the Armed Career Criminals Act of 1984 basically created minimum sentences and fines for certain felonies when used with a firearm. Next, the Law Enforcement Officers Protection Act of 95 basically prohibited the manufacture, importation, and sale of ammunition designed to go through soft armor. The Career Criminals Amendments Act, again, added a mandatory sentence for other felonies with a firearm. And then the Firearms Owners Protection Act of 1986 included the Hughes Amendment, which Hughes is, of course, infamous for. The Hughes Amendment was tacked on to the end of the voting, and as you can see in the live video that's available now online, it was definitely passed incorrectly, out of order, and should never have been put into law. So this is why Hughes will always be infamous with firearms owners. And again, the Hughes Amendment prohibited the private possession of full auto machine guns. that were created after 1986. And again, that's something that we still all live with to this day. Finally, the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988, which is something we did a video on recently, prohibited any firearm which was detectable through metal detectors or X-ray machines. Again, a law in science fiction, basically. Then Hughes later founded the Center for Public Policy in New Jersey, and in 1996, the Federal Aviation Administration's Technical Center in New Jersey was named after him. Now, why did I take the time to take a look at Hughes and the laws that he's responsible for? He's a person that doesn't believe full auto machine guns have a purpose. And he was responsible for 9 years for our federal firearms laws, and he's unfortunately responsible for some unfortunate legislation, depending on which one you're looking at and who you talk to. So let's talk again about the laws that he's responsible for. Now, again, on the surface, mandatory sentences, are a good thing. However, are they effective? Are they necessary? And we can take a look at all kinds of crimes that have mandatory minimums and whether or not they're effective and necessary. But that's probably the topic for a whole nother video. So let's take a look at the violence point and the laws that he passed that specifically pick out the firearm in violent crime. Why would the device used to commit violence require more or less punishment? In other words, if you committed violence with a feather duster, would it require less punishment than violence done with a firearm? And I don't think people pay attention enough to that facet of this, because typically the most reprehensible and most wicked violence is given the longest sentences or the largest fines. So when they equate the most reprehensible and the most wicked violence with firearms, they're basically persecuting firearms or firearms owners, either intentionally or unintentionally. So this is either a deliberate attempt to demonize the firearm or the firearm owner or the person who has the mindset to use a firearm in defense, or it's completely unintentional. But either way, I suggest that they're causing the same amount of damage overall to the country. I put a video up like this because I think it's our job to question the lawmakers as well as the laws that they're responsible for. I think we need to question the need for more laws. Few laws give us a nice framework we can all work well in society. The more laws we give, the more places we give for criminals to hide. We have some links here to the places we use to research this video. We always encourage you to support the organization.
Okay. So that's a little bit about that guy. And those guys all went out to get something to drink. So we'll continue.
Yeah, F that guy. No, I'm
here. I just didn't know what to say. I have to follow that up.
Yeah, I'm stewing.
So, anything else on the Hughes or?
Well, on the FFLs, like we were just talking a moment ago, Moonfood out there did give us a link about, now granted it's on the truth about guns, so I don't want to say take it with a grain of salt. Usually they're relatively on point. It is about the no more kitchen FFLs. What is it? Is it you'll be able to renew? It's just that they're not going to be giving out new ones.
Grandfathered in the existing home FFLs. There's just no new home FFLs.
And I believe it's how the ATF is enforcing the existing laws or what have you. So I think that there is one of these chances where at some point, once, we can get Trump's attention to it, that he might be able to direct them to enforce it differently, perhaps.
Right. It's
such
just
as Obama did.
Put upon us not to forget and to...
Yes.
Because we have a limited time frame to, of course, he's real busy. So
right, but no, it seems like there's going to be chances for this, and I mean, again, ever vigilant. We can't let these opportunities slip through our fingers. We've mentioned it before that there's what do we say? Do we think there were 600 days? And we're already we're 2 weeks into it, so to speak. So. Yes, he's already started by helping with the Social Security thing and some of the other stuff for rules of enforcement. So this definitely needs to be remembered to get him to take a look at it. Because, again, I still don't understand what the big deal about the kitchen table or kitchen counter FFL is. I don't understand what the problem is. Why why it had to be taken away, so to speak. So maybe somebody out there that knows some anti that's super duper smart and there's actual reasons for it. I haven't really heard of a good one or a reasonable reason. It's something justifiable that would make you say, oh, well, if that's why, then I kind of understand why, but I have not heard of that yet.
No, there hasn't been any deliberate questioning when they pass their garbage, and their lame explanation had to do with the fear that something might be done inappropriately. So not based on any kind of actual statistics or research, and done 100% on the perception of something that might happen, or the concept that even though this won't solve anything, at least it's a step. And whenever they do that and they're not challenged on it, then of course that becomes the paradigm, and they get to say, that was a step in the direction, and we're going to keep going because that's the established direction we've got now. So
see, look what I'm doing. I'm saving people. Yeah, I got what you're saying, G, for sure.
Well, it's to help enforce that perception that the firearms are bad, and that somehow the unregulated distribution of firearms is a negative. So it's to enforce the perception that without regulation, the amount of firearms is somehow a bad thing.
It is regulated. It's just regulated in a store and regulated in your house. It's still regulated.
No, but it's not regulated at all, and that's where creating or removing the ability for people to do FFLs without a place of business, it would, in their mind, stop the perception that guns moving around.
FFLs are regulated,
right? But they're trying to suggest that they're somehow less regulated or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is why they were putting those enforcements forward, is what G's saying, is because they were trying to portray it as that it's just an open, flooded river of violence and blood, basically, because of it.
The obvious slippery slope that I see that being a path towards is that, you remove the problem, quote unquote, of kitchen table FFLs, and then of course you say now we need universal background checks to stop the unregulated distribution amongst individuals, and then
for private sales, you mean? Yeah.
Right. And the universal background checks meaning everything needs to go through these established stores. Then once everything's going through an established store and everything's on a 4473, all of a sudden they get to look in surprise at the number 4473s that are being processed and say, we had no idea. They get to gasp. They get a number that they get to, that's actually calculated for them. They don't even have to put any money in to research that number. It's going to be provided to them by the enforcement agency each periodically. And they get to gasp every time and say, look, now we're aware of so many more guns, and we were on the right track, and now it's been verified that all this was taking place, without our knowledge, and obviously that's where crime comes from.
They get to point and say, look, see. Yep.
Completely ignore the fact that actual violent crime is on the decline, and it continued to be. But anyway, that's why I think that's the major objective, is just to demonize the concept of property moving hands, if the property is firearms.
Okay. Alrighty. Anything else on this or the?
So I think that was the FFL thing, and then we kind of moved along, and I think at this point we can jump into one of the daily topics. Windbreakers. It looks like a storm.
Into the shelter.
I like to grab a windbreaker that's going to be water resistant, something with a hood. When I hear a storm warning like this. So you probably have a little bit different situation on the islands.
Oh yeah, we get one of those first Monday every month.
Did you guys hear anything?
Yeah, we heard that storm warning, and we were talking about how on the islands, I would imagine that they have to worry about like sharks being picked up into the storm.
Sharknado style. Yep, we hear that all the time.
Well, for those of you that may not be aware, I have a new sound effect for the tactical pop quiz of the day, which is right now. So think of that as your alarm to get ready to rock and roll. So if you're on YouTube, go ahead and put your cursor down in the text box, get your fingers limbered up. Same thing over at Gun Channels. My trusty official, have you seen the question and more importantly, the answer?
Sure.
And this was courtesy of Deadhorse. So once again, I mentioned it earlier. He sent in some questions. So thank you very much, Deadhorse. So today's question is as follows, and I shall read it twice. What was Eugene Stoner's job in the Marines? What was Eugene Stoner's job in the Marines?
I need 2,700 copies of these by now.
Nice. Cook is incorrect. As far as I know. According to the answer we have here, that is incorrect. Bing, 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 bing. Scars is the winner. I wonder if YouTube froze up. Nope.
Congratulations, Scars. The answer was aviation ordnance.
I believe Scars has been a winner before. It may have been a little bit, but welcome back to the winner's circle, Scars. That makes you the last tactical pop quiz hot shot for the week. So excellent job. Way to make it happen. And in the week, a winner.
Yep. So Scars, since you're new, just a reminder, head on over to dailygunshow.com/pop-quiz. Fill out the form, put a first, second, and third choice of your prize of what you would like. And congratulations, Scars,
and
on being our winner today.
He's not new. He's won before.
Channel side?
Yes, Gun Channel side, correct.
Oh, there's only one winner today, and he's the new winner for today.
Wait a minute. Is there only one winner today?
I don't know. I think there's another winner from the actual tactical quiz.
That's true, but there's only
Let's
one.
not get blinded. Let's not get blinded by these tiny little daily pop quizzes when the real deal is the Wednesday technical quiz that people.
You're stabbing me in the heart. My God.
So it seems like it might be a good time to address the elephant in the room. Everybody's been waiting for the results of the weekly tactical quiz on Wednesday. We had 3 audio clues that we had 5 correct answers for. So we are going to, I guess I closed everything. We will open up the random thing again here. And that will screen capture so everybody can see that it's legit. And Dano, do you still have the email thing open?
I don't.
I was just going to do it. So 5 is like the most recent one, would be the first one to answer.
If you give me a minute,
it'll be number 2. So the second person to have given us an answer because they were all correct.
Let my computer catch up. Okay. Let me just make sure I have. Okay, I see who the first one is. All right. So I can count up from there.
So it's the second one, right? So
I
you don't have to count very far.
You got Angry also, correct?
Yeah, I've got. What do you want me to list off the names? Let's see. We've got Sean.
No. The second one from the first one, and then the second one is the one who won. So that, in my calculation, is Angry American.
Correct. Angry American is number 2.
Okay, so then Angry, you're going to win your choice of a patch from the panel. Actually, I just found the patches that I brought back from SHOT Show. So all these little blank areas are now full of patches. I will take another picture later on today and post it up on the thing. So if you want to wait a bit, there'll be some more patches up there. I raped Mil-Spec Monkey's patch book. So I got a bunch of Mil-Spec Monkey ones up there, and then a couple of like Geisley and some others that we picked up.
He's just a little guy. That's not very nice.
He wasn't looking, and I took advantage.
So to our tactical pop quiz winner out there, if you want to wait a couple hours, you can maybe have a better selection too.
Oh, I guess the pop quiz winner can take advantage of that too. I guess that's okay. Seeing as there was a tactical quiz winner today.
Yeah. I almost had a stroke right live on the show. I almost beat Bob to the punch.
Uh-oh. Well,
everybody
we don't know.
Thought Bob was going to go first.
Yeah, we don't know Bob is gone or not. We just don't know. So I guess,
he's incommunicado, I believe is the Latin word.
Assume that Dano hasn't beaten him to the punch yet.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll
I felt
take
like
us
I
on
was there.
to the next segment of the show. Looks like we're doing okay with time, so why don't we jump into the gun movie of the day? So every day we'd like to talk about a movie that you might not have seen in a while if you're an old guy, or if you're a youngin, probably haven't seen anything good yet. We'd like to let you know about good ones.
Before we go any further, just
Okay.
hold up 1 second. We do have a request for the correct answers to the tactical quiz, please.
Oh, well, everybody who guessed got it right, but they were, do we still have them available anywhere? They were the Conan one, which I don't know if we have anybody that can remember the direct quote that came from that clip.
Crush your enemies. See them driven before you. Hear the lamentation of the women. Let alone what is best in life. Fleet horse.
Yeah, he goes, wrong. Conan, what is best in life?
Yes, exactly. When he goes wrong, that is just one of the best scenes of the whole movie.
And rape their women.
He does not say rape their women. For fuck's sakes.
What does he say?
No wonder we don't have any female viewers.
No,
What
kid.
does he say?
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women.
Okay.
Jeez. You monster.
Then we had the malfunction with the Mac
Now,
10.
what do you think they actually did back then?
They lamentated.
Yeah.
They were sad. They were crying.
Why did
Because they were
kill
crushed.
the men if they didn't kill the women? But that's another story for another time on another
They
chat.
were lamenting because their dudes got all slaughtered and killed in front of them. Right?
Okay.
They wanted to hear their women cry.
Yep.
It's not a rapey thing. It's a we're gonna kill all your men and make you cry thing. All right. So getting into the much more cheery Night of the Comet was the second one, and that was the epic scene where the little girl cheerleader has malfunctions with the Mac 10, and
Says,
she looks at her sister and goes, "Daddy would have got me an Uzi," and probably epic or one of the most iconic, awesome lines from the movie ever. So that's Night of the Comet. I'm sure we've talked about it before, but awesome movie.
Yes.
And then the last one was the tougher one. There was a lot of wrong guesses in the chat from people who weren't paying attention to the rules and trying to do it via email. But everybody who emailed knew the one. It was the in Spanish conversation between the bad guy Cuban and some other bad guy Russian, I think, or maybe some flunky Cuban, where the guy's saying, go to the sporting goods stores, get the 444 73s, and collect all the guns.
Yep.
And epic scene out of the best movie ever made. So even though you couldn't, if you don't speak Spanish, couldn't figure out what they were saying, there's a section in there where they go, however the hell these 4473 in Spanish, they say that part, and that was probably enough to get, I guess, the people who.
You know that was Superfly, right? You do realize that Superfly saying that.
The Cuban guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the 3 audio clues. Everybody got them. So it was 100% random. All 5 of you would have potentially won, and Angry won because I guess he's just better at being random than the rest of you. All right, so that'll take us on to another segment of the show, which was.
Now we can go to Doctor.
We're about to go to a movie of the day. And I was going to say, what I've been trying to do when I'm looking for a movie to watch is check out what the movies of the day are going to be, on Daily Gun Show, so that I can watch these movies. So I just watched this movie earlier today before the AK podcast. So anyway, the movie today is Spies Like Us. And this is an awesome movie from the 80s with, was it Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd?
Yep.
In their heyday, being
Donna
great.
Dixon.
And they're basically, it's a comedy, so they're basically like stooges that get.
You got to remember the Cold War was still big and bad and scary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
But it wasn't stupid and ridiculous either.
No, they did pretty good at keeping Dan Aykroyd like nerdy like he is, and then keeping Chevy Chase kind of goofy like he is, without letting either one of them get too weird. And then I remember it fondly from the day, and I just watched it again, and it holds up pretty good if you remember the 80s. And AK's in it, and lots of Russian and Pakistani shit. So hot Russian chicks and a little bit of buffoonery, but it's kind of like Stripes, I guess, except with just those 2 guys.
I guess in a way.
Well, other than you're comparing the Army to the CIA. I mean, other than you're doing that.
Yeah, but they have the same irreverence for any given a shit. It's not hardly patriotic.
Okay, it's done in the same style. Yes, I will definitely give you that. Like a wink and a nod.
I don't even know. They're definitely not pro Reagan or pro, I don't know. They were on our side during the Cold War, but they were critical of it. Not quite like today, but you know what I'm saying? They weren't. It wasn't like a Rocky or something that was 100% patriotic.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was not exactly 100% of. It's not that it wasn't pro-American. It's just.
I don't want to say that either. But they were just like say they're willing to be critical and sarcastic about stuff.
Matt's out there with jokes on the gun channel side. Nice. And Sean Ponner with the some women were lament intolerant, which is pretty funny too. But this movie's hilarious. It's very, very, very funny.
Now, again, I have to be the oddball of the group and say I remember when the movie came out. I didn't think it was that good then, and I have the same opinion now.
Did you actually see it, or that was just your opinion of the
I saw the trailer.
Okay, so yeah, so then you have no basis on how good this movie was or wasn't. You're just simply relating it to a trailer.
Other than when I went to a show and that one was starting, there was no one waiting in line to get in.
So you're judging the movie on the fact that there was no line.
I'm judging it on the trailer, which did not look as a interesting or entertaining movie. I mean, because back then,
Clay
that's
might
all
be
we
correct,
had.
but I'm not going to repeat what Clay said. But Clay may be correct. I don't know, because this movie is genuinely funny. Genuinely. But
there's certain types of humor that I enjoy, and stupid 80s and humor is not one of them.
Yeah,
clearly,
you probably ain't gonna like it because it is kind of Chevy Chase-ish, but they're starting at live-ish, I guess.
Yeah, things like George Carlin, I find hysterical.
Well, it's because he's funny as well.
But two totally different things. I mean,
there's no need to rag on it, though. You don't have to like it either. So,
truly,
any thumbs up from Dano? He hadn't even seen it, so we're assuming. Is it
nope.
Down or a no vote?
I'll go no vote.
All right. Z's giving it a thumbs up, I'm sure.
Oh, 2, dude. Come on. I'm giving it 2 thumbs up, an eye patch, and an arm and a cast.
Well, I'm giving it a thumbs up
because of what I said.
No, because that's part of the movie, dude.
So I'll give it a thumbs up for being a good movie, and then I'm going to give it another thumbs up for the hot Russian chicks, because that's a whole.
That was Vanessa Angel, by the way, a very young Vanessa Angel.
At least in my experience, going in and invading the commies during the Cold War, that's pretty much the reception you were greeted with. So it's true to life as well.
That was an assumption. Yes. Yep.
Most European women do not look particularly attractive in real life.
Well, technically, Russia's not Europe, so that's okay.
That's the first part that we would have seen was Eastern European women, if it had ever happened.
Swedish. Yep. We'll just leave it at that. And then we'll transition on into the next segment of the show. So that's the gun movie. We like to mention a movie. Hopefully this is one that people will enjoy going back and watching, unless you're like old Dano. You don't like old movies like that. So we'll now
tragedy popcorn fart. What?
We will now go into the gun of the day. And since we don't have one already on the schedule, I figured I would peruse through my list of playlists here. And if you guys see something that strikes your fancy, that's what we've been doing most of the week. I will click on it, and we will find a video in there to look at. Anything? You guys looking at the screen?
We're going a little fast. It's just a little jumpy for me.
Oh, God.
What about I was going to say firearms training, but that's not a gun of the day.
Well, we can go into it since it doesn't really matter. Excuse me. Is there one that does firearms training? Oh, yeah, there is right here.
Yeah.
So we have 71 videos in there. Looks like a couple of things on components and triggers and whatnot. Let's go to this Glock training trigger one. So this was from
taking a look at
Oops.
One of the training devices.
This is from, when did I make this video? 2009. So this is only 8 years old. And this is a trigger reset kit that you would take apart your Glock and you would install this trigger instead of your regular trigger. And it's not a trigger, at least it doesn't do anything. It just resets the trigger every time you pull it. So nowadays, when you put in something like one of the laser light module guns or bullets, you know, where you stick the bullet in and it pulses the laser at the targets when you pull a hammer or striker on a double action only gun. This basically turns the Glock into double action only, but as a training device. It doesn't actually, you know, drop the hammer every time. So kind of complicated to explain, complicated to switch out, obviously, because you got to take your entire lower apart to where the point where you can get the trigger bar and everything out, and then you swap it out and you put all your pins back together. So probably why it wasn't as successful as they would have probably liked it to have been. This was made by people down in Nogales, so right on the international border with Mexico, south of Tucson, and they made the hell all they make? They made a couple of different Glock modifications, and then they made a sight tool that now Robar sells, and what was the name? I think it was Kaiser is the name of the place. I think they were called Kaiser still when they made that trigger. So they made the trigger. They sent. They gave me this one to test out, and I always liked it. And I'm not sure if other people. I'm sure someone picked up the ball since then to do something similar, especially when you have things like the laser light module. But that was my video review of it back in 09, and I'm using it with a Blade Tech training barrel insert thing there, which is just a kind of a thing that jams down the barrel to give you a visual indicator that the gun's out of commission. And then I've got a Rings magazine in it, which is just a big thing that's weighted, that weighs as much as a loaded magazine, but is just inert. And that's that video. So
I noticed in that video you also have a training dummy barrel that you did not use in that particular Glock.
Oh yeah, so that's a Blade Tech barrel that you would swap out and put in place of a barrel period, and that way you wouldn't have to take the whole bottom apart or anything. But what that is, just solid plastic, so you can't put like a laser cartridge in there or anything like that. I think I did a series of videos with all that stuff at the time, so probably had some extra stuff on the ground there that I was looking at. The blue gun, which is solid plastic, and then those are dummy rounds, which are just plastic rounds.
I mean, I really like going through some of this stuff because there's a lot of stuff that I was unaware of. You know, regardless of whether it's still pertinent for today, I still like, you know, what I'll call some of the history, even if it's near history.
Right on. Well, I'd like to actually go back, and I know where that trigger is. I'm going to go grab it, and I don't know if I have a 40 bullet, though. I guess I'll have to put it in a stupid 9mm gun, and then put that 9mm bullet in there that I either haven't sent you or I haven't sent Z. I know it's supposed to be going to one of you two. And then see if it works with that trigger reset thing on those targets, because that would actually make those targets super cool, because, you know, Glocks aren't normally double action only.
How do you possibly not have a 40 bullet? How is that even possible?
They sent them to me. I didn't ask for them, so.
Oh, okay.
They freaking caliber assumed on me. I don't like being the victim of caliber assumption, but it happens. I don't like to bring it up, but it happens.
It's a thing.
You also carried 40 for a long time.
I know, exactly. So I was definitely caliber assumed. It's a horrible thing. You're living your life as a 40 guy, and then here comes some company and just caliber assumes that you're some kind
So at the end of your 40 age, when you sold the guns, you didn't have a partial box left over?
A partial box of 40 left over?
Yeah.
I thought you just shoot those.
Other people have ammo. I'm okay with 40 right now. Just because I don't carry it doesn't mean I throw it away or get rid of it or something. I own 40 for a reason, and I still own 40. Anyhow, so that was gun of the day. We try to feature a gun every day. Going forward, next week and so forth, we do have guns in there, I'm pretty sure. So it'll be less of a random thing, but this week was a bit random. But that's sort of the nature of the show, is to be kind of organic and grow with what's going on, topic of the day kind of thing. So if you'd like to participate, I know some people have talked about sending in some ideas for gun of the day. Feel free to do so. If you've got a video on a gun, we can run your video. It's the same as we run one of ours. And if you've got some gun that you think is cool, maybe something that we can show you pictures from a museum we've seen or something, that'd be a fun way to to interact with the show. So you can always email us. It's dailygunshow@gmail.com. That's one way to get a hold of us. You can leave comments in the live show. There's probably feel free to leave the live comments, but that's probably not the most permanent way to get a hold of us, since it requires us to somehow copy and paste that somewhere where we keep it permanent. But we do usually watch the live comments and copy and paste stuff over to our show notes. So that is a way to get a hold of us. But another way that's open to all of our Patreon members is to get with us on the first Saturday of the month, and that looks like it'll be tomorrow, mañana. And we will be scheduling out the show for February going into March. And everybody who is a Patreon supporter is welcome to join in on that effort and kind of collaborate on what we're going to be talking about. And it's a way for us to also just have a BS session that's not so formatted as our daily show. So, we don't have the topics and stuff, so we can just kind of riff and BS, and that's how the show will continue to grow as we go along. I think we're about to lose Z. Yep. So we're pretty much close to wrapping it up, though. I think we're going to deal with a little bit of the wrap up for the week after Z leaves us. And we missed anything? We don't have a history today.
Well, we got gun channels today and this weekend. Want to go ahead and do that now?
If you want, sure.
Sure. All right, today's Friday. So as always, we have Edge holding down every single Friday. It's a non-heavy week, so Heavy B will not be here tonight. And then on Saturday in the morning, we've got is it Saturday morning? No, Saturday afternoon. I think Matt comes in and does his never enough ammo thing, and occasionally on Sunday morning, he might even do a coffee with questions and so forth. And then, of course, Sunday we've got Liberty Watch, and then as a reminder, on Monday we've got the new hours. We're going to dinner time, the Daily Gun Show. So keep an eye out for that, as well as hopefully Jimmy James will keep things going strong on Early Watch next week, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific in the morning. And that's Gun Channels this weekend.
Right on. I think in addition to that, Matt has been talking about doing a get-together where we dig into, what was we going to dig into? Setting up something. I forget now. It was either digging more into video or photo editing, or else perhaps podcasting. But I know there was a couple of things that we were talking about delving into as far as like Gun Channels University stuff, and I think he wanted to do one of those this weekend. So with that,
photo editing, I think it would be great, because that's something that I'd like to learn a little bit about, but I know absolutely nothing about it. Even like just to make my own, little icon thumbnail.
Well, Matt and I and Deadhorse were all in a chat with Artisan Tony this week, and that's something we're going to be talking about, I guess, as we dig through here. So we did actually do a bit of that already, and I think it ended up being over an hour. So it might not be the kind of thing where we all sit down ahead of time and plan it all out and it's highly structured and useful. But on the other hand, it might be entertaining for a while, and you might get something out of it, some little kernels. And again, we're not necessarily trying to be your one-stop shop for, plug and play, learn new stuff, as much as here's the way that people do it, and using your abilities to Google and, discover things online. Go find the either YouTube channel or how-to website or whatever that works best for you, that gets information across best for you. And then we're going to give you the kernels on what to go look for, and then go discover it and learn it from somebody who's good at doing that.
Right, but at least when I'm starting off, even if it's just a very small group, it's nice to get a little bit of consensus for what's a good app for somebody who's new, just starting into it, that's not overwhelming.
With that in mind, what we did is we started with Photoshop, which is like the expensive end, let's say, the costly side. Then we looked at Paint, which is the other side, the very free thing that comes along on every Windows machine. And we talked about some things you could do there, some of the things to do in Photoshop, so people had an idea. But then we really focused on one called GIMP, which is free, like open source type of software that we all just installed and started using, and accomplished a couple of things, like creating transparency as a background instead of like a white background, because Matt had that need for some of his work that he was doing. So Night Strike showed us how to open up the image, create a layer behind it with the transparency basically, and then how to remove the white area from the original picture so that on top of the transparent layer it became a transparent background. And that's one of those tasks that's pretty common that people want to do. And we walked through how to do that a couple of different ways with GIMP. And we'll probably explore more of that as time goes on, as both Matt and I learn the software. Like I'm coming from it from using the Photoshop and the Adobe products, and then the opposite, the most basic Paint products. And then Matt coming at it from using predominantly his video editing software he would use to do his picture manipulation, which is a little bit clunky, but at least it gave him gives him a different frame of reference. So when we come together with Night Strike and do those, hopefully we're giving people again some ideas. So it's sort of a direction to go, but then like I say, we're not necessarily catching every little thing. So definitely something you could enhance by going out and finding videos from somebody who does explain it well, to fill in all the gaps or whatever we leave.
Well, the nice thing about GIMP is that, being an open source software, much like OpenOffice it is free. It's now very Windows friendly. They originally started off as kind of Linux variants, but then moved over with the correct, plugins, so to speak, to be able to run on Windows and are still maintain that free aspect of it. So you want to go ahead and
Oh, I'm muted. So yeah, I was just noticing somebody on the YouTube side asked about the gun of the day. It was actually that trigger on that Glock. So we kind of looked down at this Glock trigger, and that was kind of in lieu of the gun of the day. So we're going to keep going on, and there goes Z. We will continue on with the wrap up for the week. And I really envisioned this originally, and I'm going to try to pursue it again. And when we're doing this in the later time of the day, we'll see how it works. But basically, we want to use the front page of Gun Channels as a quick way to go through and look at the important stuff that happened throughout the week. So anybody that logs on to Gun Channels as a member or not is going to get directed to this page eventually. And we'll just scroll down. This is basically a summary of the various things that people have posted throughout the week. So Dano, did you already talk about this today during this show?
The beginning of the show?
Okay.
It's fairly short. Might as well just go ahead and throw it back out there.
Since we heard about this just yesterday, the New Mexico state has an initiative to create a universal background checks there. Obviously, that would be a very bad thing. So in order to resist that, our friends at BMC Tactical posted something on Instagram, and we relayed it yesterday. Dano took the essence of it. The people are going to be meeting at the Capitol on Saturday, tomorrow, to oppose the bill, and they're also urging people to call I think it's the governor's office, and it's I'm going to give you a phone number here, area code 505-476-2200. So 505-476-2200, and ask them to veto HB 50 and SB 48, and that would definitely be a service for the people in New Mexico and all of us, really. Anyway, we talked about well, this is just an announcement of today's show. This is some photos that somebody had posted. We talked about earlier the AK-47 podcast. We did that again this week, and that was posted. It's the beginning of the month, so our Patreons, we talked about our Patreons here on the Daily Gun Show. We do a random patch. We did the same thing for the gun website side over on Patreon, and I think I mentioned earlier, Z is the one. He's a contributor to our Patreon over there. He won the patch of the month, so we got a mention of that there. Looks like Smeggy posted something about Washington State going after guns, so we have a link there. And I'm not sure. It looks like he just posted this on his main timeline. So one of the things we're going to try to push for going forward this year is to post these things in the appropriate place. So like for this one, let's post this in the Washington State section of Gun Channels, so that anybody who comes back in the future looking for specific information on Washington gets this and doesn't necessarily have to search for it. It looks like Deadhorse posted something for Early Watch earlier today. So they were running. Night Strike had it running for a while there this morning before I did the AK-47 podcast. We had some upgrades to the site recently, so sometimes when you let this page sit for a bit, some of the Java stuff dies out. So I just refreshed the page there so that I could click on the more. So now we're scrolling down further, and it looks like Smeggy again posted some stuff on the repeal of these rules on some coal mining things, but also on who can own firearms based on your social security status or something like that. So I made a note that I posted that on the new Every Second Matters wiki area under Second Amendment and health, because that's perfect type of example.
Right.
You know, it's not like I heard earlier, somebody was complaining that I forget what live show I was listening to, but people were complaining basically that not enough pro-gun stuff is happening, and that's not true. We do have pro-gun stuff happening. Unfortunately, it's like kind of the boring library stuff that is necessary to move, but isn't the flashy fun stuff. So some of this has to do with. Go ahead.
I had mentioned at the beginning of the show today, just as a matter of fact, the Social Security Administration, the rule change that they had, which would begin this coming December, that both the House of Representatives and the Senate both passed binding resolutions to have that rule change reversed,
and
so that Social Security recipients would not have their health privacy violated.
Yep, and I think that's your post right here that goes to that. Let's see, then we get one from Brandon, who posted this thing about, I think this is, I don't know what this is, but there's a movie called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. So this must be a video on YouTube about that situation. I'm not sure why he posted it, if it's the anniversary or something. I didn't see anything in there, but I haven't followed that link. Then I had a post to Every Second Matters there. Of course, since we're live, everything's going to hang, so I'll just refresh the page and scroll down a little quicker this time. And the point of this segment of the show, again, is to recap the week, and then also I'd like to let Friday's shows on the Daily Gun Show become a summary of the week, so that people know that if they're going to listen to one show each week, it's going to be the Friday show, because we're going to talk about pretty much everything else that happened, both in our show and just in gun channels in general. So ideally a nice, concise summary of what's been happening, both entertaining and important. So the second of the month, of course, was Groundhog's Day, and some posts about that. Z posted some stuff for some gun deals there. He also, unfortunately, posted some stuff for last minute almost. At least they gave people very little notice in order to complain about some of the new restrictive laws in Hawaii. Let's see, I'm not sure. I guess PBR posted something from Hickok's kid. We mentioned this the other day, but Jason posted a new patch there, the Treadmore. It's Mount Rushmore with the Gadsden flag up top. Kind of a cool, what do they call that when you mix two together? Mashup?
Yep.
Z posted something about the Pennsylvania Outdoor Show. That's a big outdoor, almost like a gun show, but more like a trade show kind of mix. And it looks like Enrique here in Tucson grabbed one of the Every Second Matters patches. Thanks for posting that there. And thanks for the support. Do appreciate that. We bought quite a few of those Every Second Matters patches, thinking Every Second Matters would take off a bit last year with the impending election and everything, and that really didn't happen. So I definitely appreciate people that purchase those patches. That goes, you know, those are paid for a long time ago, so that goes straight to funding for the new van. I'm not sure what this is, a link to some YouTube video. I guess when this one got posted, maybe the site was glitching, because normally it'll convert that into whatever the subject of the video is. So that was a glitchy one. We're not sure what that is. We have a channel called Bacon Off, and I just posted some of my pictures from Vegas. I like to partake in the buffets, and I'm quite a fan of getting a giant plate of bacon and a chocolate donut. So I like taking pictures of that, and I posted them on the Bacon channel. We had a update to the Loophole tour. I guess I posted that. Looks like we had some reposting deal on shotgun ammo. Had some art of the day there. It's glitching on me as everything's starting to populate here. So I will refresh the page. Like I say, sorry, we've been having some upgrades over at Gun Channels, and that means every once in a while the Javas will glitch out. And Dano and I were talking about that earlier, I think, today, that we'll have to build a place on Gun Channels for people to report those kind of things, because it can be frustrating when you're having a glitch like that and you're not sure if everyone's aware of it or not. oops, like this one just happened. That thing glitched out and repeated a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing to do is usually just refresh. But like I say, we're going to create a ticket area or something, whatever it's going to be called, so that people can post them there. Also see what other people are posting, so you don't feel like you're adding any burden if you're just reporting something. You can see if other people are having the same issue, and then usually those kind of things will give you like an end time, so you can also get an idea of, this thing's been going for 2 hours. Usually they take 2 hours to fix. It's almost fixed, that kind of thing. So Smeggy posted this post about this guy that makes a YouTube channel where he makes guns out of Legos. And I think at this point, I'm not going to keep fighting the glitch. We'll consider it a draw at that point. So that was the concept of the Friday wrap-up, is we're going to go back through gun channels as we're able to. In other words, as the Patreon support grows and we have more and more time to devote to the show, and then the shows specifically like the Friday show and the Wednesday show, as the Patreon support grows, what we'll do is spend more time on the weekly wrap-up, so that instead of just being a random browse through the main page, we'll actually have spent some time ahead of time with an actual summary. And then the ideal goal of that is to coordinate that with a newsletter that'll go out on Fridays. So according to the way we've got it figured out here, the Daily Gun Show will be planned out at the beginning of the month with the help of our Patreon supporters. Then we'll have a schedule for the entire month. We'll be able to schedule guests and experts to join us based on that schedule for the month. So the show should get better from that angle. We'll also be going through on Fridays and doing this weekly wrap-up, which should give everybody a Friday show that becomes a good summary of the week's news. And then, like I say, we'll take make a newsletter from that show each Friday, so that anybody who wants to participate in what we're doing but doesn't have the time to listen or watch will be able to check out the newsletter, your email or whatever. And then all of that will coordinate with the Friday show that we charge to Patreons, so that way everyone's used to getting a consistent charge on Fridays for the efforts of the Daily Gun Show. And hopefully that'll be something that everybody looks forward to and helps get everybody's interests up and gives them the resources needed to be as an effective Second Amendment advocate as possible.
All right, so any miscellaneous business before we get formal towards the end here?
Nope, I think that'll wrap it up. I know that can be a lot to absorb there, so give us some feedback. We are, I have some goals what I'd like to do at the show, but I don't want those to to be at odds with what people are enjoying about the show. So you use the resources we've got, the email and the comments fields, and let us know what you like and don't like about the show.
All right, we like to end each show with a quote, and with some of the things going on in the news this week, I think this one is quite appropriate. It's from Thomas Jefferson. I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. And with that, I want to thank you for listening today and this week. Again, be aware of our new hours for next week, and please be prepared.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.